Hello my friends and welcome back to my channel. We have another flower letter today. This is flower letter number 9, and as I told you guys a couple letters ago that we were going to be seeing more of these because I got sick and had a lot of things going on and I kind of got behind. I do apologize. So this is letter number 9. We're going to jump right in here and we're going to see who this is from. This one feels kind of thick. I'm not sure if it's just the letter or what. So we have a pretty pink, very bright pink postcard. I really love this one. Really cute. There's the back of it. We have a attention read first. So, okay, so let's see what this says before we get into anything else. It says June 15th, 1884, Utah Central Railway Station, Utah Territory. This is from Kanab. It says, to Sam Parsons, Sam, sending a job your way, begging you to take it, wrapped up in something crooked, or I would, got a treasure in Frisco, name of L.C. Moore. Something is rotten in Frisco. Keep her safe for me, for old time's sake. Matt. Oh, that's so cute. He calls her a treasure. I really love that. And you definitely know he cares about her because he's wanting to send somebody there to keep an eye on her. I really, really love that. I wish they'd send us a portrait, maybe like a little picture of what he looks like. I'd like to see like a description like of what he would look like just a little picture. Alright, so we read that. Then we've got White Widow Strikes Again. This looks like a newspaper clipping. Here is our business card, and once again, I really love this one. Love her dress. It says the Princess of Wales. I really love that. And then the back of this, Princess the Plow of America. So this was like a plow business. We want every dealer and farmer to write us for descripted circular. Address, the Princess Plow Company, Ohio. So, okay, that's really cute. I love the front of that, though. I love that they're using her for advertisement. I would definitely collect this one if I was collecting business cards at that time. Then we've got the letter, and it looks like a pretty thick letter, guys. Looks like we got about 3 pages of letter plus the newspaper clipping, which I'm going to leave this one for last because I don't want to spoil anything. Usually in the letter it kind of talks about it and then that gives you more of a description. So this looks like it is to Mr. Hickman. So hopefully this is from Lily Clara. And we will jump in this and we'll see what happens. June 9th, 1884. Dear Mr. Hickman, I'm sorry to hear the stars have been making mischief for you, and I'm also very sorry to hear you face such misfortune in your life. You must miss your father and brothers terribly. It's very understandable you should find yourself as exhausted with the darker side of life. I've often felt that way myself, but meeting people like you and Miss Lottie and Dr. and Mrs. Frisbee who are caring for my Katie and having benefited so much from your kindness helps my hope for a better world bright. Don't let the ugliness of mankind dim your light, Mr. Hickman. I know the struggle can seem daunting at times, but you're making more of a difference than you realize. In fact, you've made a world of difference to me. Since you were so confiding in me about your past, I will tell you a bit of my history in return. As you well know, Mike MacDonald isn't the only Irishman to try and get ahead in America by working outside the law. New York has its own underbelly, and unfortunately my father was well acquainted with it. He was a Molly Maguire, you see. At least he was before my mother convinced him to leave Pennsylvania and find work in New York. Being a Pinkerton, I'm sure you know about the Maguires. I suppose the old ways couldn't just be left behind in Ireland, not when every door was slammed in one's face and every opportunity denied due to prejudice. Though he left the Maguires behind in Pennsylvania, it wasn't long before my dad joined another secret society in New York, the Ancient Order of Hibernians. Unknowns to my mother, He joined at the bidding of Molly McGuire's. Consequently, my father was heavily involved in the draft riots of '63. When Mama realized he was one of their leaders, she tried again to stop him, to save him from himself. She tried persuading him to leave New York and participate in the Homestead Act. She was convinced if she could just get him out of the grasp of the old ways and into a piece of his own land, he would settle down and be content. Died and promised he'd go just as soon as the war was over. Unfortunately, he never got the chance to keep his promise. He was killed during the riots, and my mother was left a widow with 2 daughters to raise on a dressmaking assistant's salary. It was very hard for her, especially with the added expense of Katie's need for constant doctor visits. Mama made countless sacrifices so I can advance to where I have as a dressmaker. She did this so I would be able to take care of Katie and myself when she was gone. I don't know if she knew something the rest of us didn't, but Mama died suddenly after I secured myself the position at Madame Lovelace's assistant. Our friend Dr. Frisbee was certain she simply died from sheer exhaustion of it all. I'm sorry to share such gloomy, intimate details with you, but my conscience has been nagging at me since I learned you were a Pinkerton. As I said before, I believe in being open and honest at the beginning of an acquaintance. I particularly felt I needed to tell you about my father's involvement with the McGuires before we further our correspondence, especially since the Pinkertons had such heavy dealings with them in the past. I share these things with you in good faith. I am my father's daughter, but I am not my father. If I thought for a moment you were the type of man who would shun me over such a thing as this, I'm sure I would have taken to you as I have. Despite my disastrous debacle with Mr. Gamet, I am actually quite instinctive about people, particularly the ones I meet in person. My instinct about you, Mr. Hickman, is that you aren't the type to cry off when some controversy on family secret comes to light. You strike me very much as the sort of man who stands fixed and true by his friends. I admire that quality immensely. Now for the latest news in Frisco, which I think you would find most interesting. We have been quite a state the last week or so. There have been more murders, you see. Most are happening in the streets as usual because of the drunken duels and cheating gamblers. But a few are different. Someone has murdered 2 men under the guise of the White Widow. It's causing a very real sort of terror to sweep through town. None of the women or children are allowed out after dark by their manfolk. Mr. DeMille has even tried to keep me from my work with Madame Cheyne, the woman who has hired me to create wardrobes for her 2 daughters. I was confused by this at first, but I understand better once Mr. DeMille showed me the 2 articles I've included with this letter. I didn't comply, of course, but his desire to protect me was very fatherly and kind. Strange murders led to another town meeting, and it's finally been decided that we will have to make whatever sacrifices necessary to hire a sheriff. I truly don't know what took them so long. When I think of all the souls who have perished in this place, Christopher Columbus, I thought the war might have taught us better than the evils of killing one's neighbor. I've decided to add to the sheriff fund myself. It will delay sending for Katie, but by just a stitch. But I'd rather have her come a little later to a safer Frisco than come right away and witness these new horrors. As to my part to play in all this, after Miss Lottie used her influence to convince the manfolk to listen to me, despite my Irish heritage and sex, heaven forbid, I volunteered to write to you, which I was doing anyway, to ask for a recommendations you might offer concerning a suitable man for the position of sheriff. I apologize for putting you on the spot like this, but my hope is you might know someone, a truly honorable man like yourself, to recommend from your Texas Rangers days. You will be doing all the citizens of Frisco and me a great service. Mr. Gamet and his men, Mr. Wallace, returned to Frisco just in time to attend the town meeting. I don't mind telling you they both looked rather shocking by the news of these strange murders. After all, the two victims were some of Gamut's Silvermine men. Gamut even went as far as to volunteer himself as sheriff. I laughed outright at the notion and had to excuse myself from the meeting. Thankfully, enough of the men in Frisco have seen Mr. Gamut's true colors and decided to vote against him. When I later went to deliver part of the money I owe Mr. Gamut, he was rather sore about the whole ordeal. It was also clear he hadn't had a very fine time of it in Chicago. He looked awfully wrung out and was rather sharp with me. I can't say I blame him, for if the rumors are true, I'd be just as sharp if I owed money to the likes of Mr. McDonald. Ever since then, Mr. Gamut has been very insistent I either pay him the rest of what I owe or marry him as originally planned. I gave up hoping he was any sort of gentleman the moment I realized he was a thief. But I didn't think he would harass me so, especially when I've given my word to repay my debt as I possibly can. Last week, he even set Mr. Wallace to follow me around town. Wallace hasn't done anything more than wish me good day or invite me to dine with his boss, but I don't appreciate being followed, nor do I relish my word being thrown back in my face. But I will keep my peace and direct my energies toward finishing my work for Madame Chenine. Then I will be free of Mr. Gamut once and for all. On that note, I'd like to leave you a few more words of encouragement regarding being weary of well-doing men like you, Mr. Hickman, the kind who fight against the lions of justice and who risk their lives to protect the weak and vulnerable are what make America the last place to run to, the last hope for the ideal for freedom. You are the ones civilizing this wild country. In all your fatigue over the darkness in this world, I pray you will never forget the little girls like I was who have fathers caught up in the dealings and corruptions of an imperfect, unjust world. We thank God every night in our prayers that good, fine men like you continue to stay true and fight the good fight despite seemingly insurmountable odds. One of my mama's favorite scriptures was, "For they that be with us are more than they that be with them." You are never alone or outnumbered when you fight for what's right. Mr. Hickman, God will always stand with you. Yours very truly, Miss Lily Clara Moore. And of course, here's our beautiful picture at the bottom. I always have to show this off because it's always really pretty. And then right down here in red, it says that if you want to learn about the Molly Maguires, the Ancient Order of Hibernians, and the draft riots of 1863, you can go to the Learn page at flowerletters.com. So that was very interesting. So we did learn a little bit about her, that her father was caught up in a lot of bad things. But like she said, that is not her. I'm hoping that the whole ordeal with Mr. Gambit, I'm kind of hoping that that just, you know, he leaves her alone because he's up to something and it is not good. Okay, so we've already done these. Let's go ahead and let's read this. It says, "The White Widow strikes again. For the second time, bewilderment and fear are at war in the hearts of every man, woman, and child of Frisco. Yesterday morning, Mr. Jack Winnington, driver of the town dead wagon, reported the death of Ezra Odell under precisely the same particular circumstances as last week's unexpected murder. It is the second of its kind, and the White Widow or someone using that guise appears to be responsible. We ask anyone with information concerning these deaths to please come forward immediately." And then this is just what's on the back, just like a little article. This looks terrifying. Anyway, then this one says, "A ghostly murder. Last night, the death of Albert Tig Jones was reported to Mr. Jack Winnington, driver of the town dead wagon. When Mr. Winnington went to retrieve the body this morning, he found the cause of death to be very strange indeed. Not only was the man killed by nothing more than a lady's hairpin through the heart, but there was a series of Chinese characters written in white paint across his forehead. There was also a cryptic note attached to the hairpin. Reports from Teg's company last night indicate he left Miss Lottie's establishment unaccompanied by way of the main street and was never seen alive again. After inquiring among Frisco's Chinamen concerning the Chinese characters, it would appear our Mr. Jones was killed by none other than Hector Link's ghost, the White Widow. So that's pretty interesting, guys. I can't wait to see who this mysterious White Widow is. I have my suspicions about who it's going to be, but I'm not going to name off anybody yet because I could be wrong. You guys let me know who you think it is. So I hope you guys like this letter. Again, it was really good. We found out bits and pieces about her past, and what is going on in Frisco. And I hope you guys really like this letter, and I will see you guys back here in my next letter. Bye.